Mixing with Mike plugin of the week is the FabFilter Timeless 2. This is another really cool one from FabFilter. I'm going to zoom in right here and we'll kind of take a closer look. The Timeless is basically a delay plugin. It has some modulation aspects and some really cool features that we're going to talk a bit about. When you look at the main interface, you get the sort of the classic header that you get here with the undo and redo, A/B, copy. You get through the presets, and there are a lot of amazing presets that you can kind of dub or pick through to find ones that you like. You got the normal help menu and things like that. And then when you get to the interface, essentially what you have is an input level, right? So this just kind of sets your input gain staging, no problem. Right now, the way that we have this is in like a send mode here. So let me just kind of send return mode, right? So we have a send coming from a vocal. We're going to feed it into a delay, and then we're going to make some noise with that. And what we have here is a feedback section. Now, it's kind of cool because what you have is like a feedback that has two stages to it. It has a feedback control, like here we have a delay left feedback. This would feed left delay signal back into the left side. But we also have a cross feedback that would feed the left feedback over to the right side. And this is really cool, as you'll see, to help kind of create and kind of spread delays. So you can somewhat create, in effect, like a ping pong delay, although that's not exactly what it's doing. And it mimics a lot of the way that in the analog days we used to mix and work with delays. If you had two delays, there would probably be two stereo units, and the delay times might be different left and right. Like one might be a dotted eighth and the other an eighth note. And so when you feed one back into the other, you get these off or these unusual rhythmic timings that kind of give you a lot more interesting movement back and forth. And that's like a very common thing. And the way that they would get fed back was from the sends of the returns of those channels. So if you filtered the return of the delay, when you feed that back, it would feed back a filtered regeneration signal that would continue to get smaller. And so there's some similar things here, and you would have the ability to feed back to the other side, back to the same side, and between all of those options, you can kind of get some things going on. So all of this kind of comes together here. Then we have our delay section. So the delays can kind of work just like a standard, drag the delay, kind of move it. You can lock the two sides so that they basically more or less have the same delay time. And then with this, you can also go right into mapped quarter note, eighth note, half note type of things here. So you can kind of work from that, and then you can work from musical timings essentially, and get that from there. And then there's two configurations. One is tape and one is stretch. The interesting thing about this is that in tape mode, if I change the delay time, I'll hear a pitch shifting. So as I increase the delay time, the pitch will lower while I'm increasing it. And that would happen with a tape. Like if you very sped it, it would all of a sudden get higher in pitch or lower in pitch, depending upon which direction you were going. And otherwise, they have a stretch mode. And what the stretch mode does is it keeps the pitch the same. So as you modulate the delay time, it doesn't give you a modulation in the pitch. And that's kind of an interesting effect. So we'll kind of maybe take a look at that. And then from there, we have the panning of the delays. So this allows us to take, like, for example, the left delay, pan it hard left, the delay to pan it hard right, or go anywhere in between. There's a freeze button here, which I'll demonstrate in a little bit. And then from there, we feed into two filters. And the filters each have high pass, low pass, and band pass options. So I could take these two filters, and there's loads of things that I can do with them. I can operate them so that the two delays come in, they feed into both filters, right? So you can see both filters here, and you can see them displayed here for the settings in terms of frequency and all of that. I can operate them in three basic modes: serial, parallel, okay, which means that both sides feed into both delays, but stereo. And then whereas serial, they kind of feed in, they actually do feed in stereo, they go through both. So we have the parallel pathway there, right? So it kind of splits them. They go through each delay, get added back in together. And then you can keep them per channel, meaning that I could have one filter type on the left side, one filter type on the right side in this particular case. And then you could turn them on and off, right? So each section has its own little thing. So we're going to start with it in a basic serial mode here, and then we're going to kind of work through each section. And we got the filters. There's a lot of different characteristics that you can do for each of the filter types. What's kind of cool is that if I put, like, for example, let's say on filter 1 I have a high pass filter, And now what I could do is I can sweep my frequency down. So now this is my frequency, but I also can put a modulation in it. So you could see like a real kind of cool resonance type of thing here. And if this is a low pass filter, then I could take this and sweep this up. And this gives me the ability to move them, you know, do a little dancey. That's nice, perfect. The little ball fits perfectly in there. And then I can kind of work them together here with the link buttons. And this gives me some ability to kind of work with the resonant characteristics of the delays. And so from here, then it feeds to an output section. Now, if I work in a normal like insert mode, then I would have a dry mix control, which you see here. So I could do that, and then I could pan this, the dry signal, and the wet signal. So I could take like a guitar, it would basically go mono to stereo, and then I could put like a chorus effect that's on one side or a doubling sort of effect on one side and the dry signal on the other side. Or I can operate it in a pure send return mode. So if I click on this, then I have no balances here on the dry signal. It ignores it entirely. And then I just have a wet mix, and then I have a balance or pan control on where that basically goes. So it's very cool. Now, when we open it up, there's a couple things here down at the bottom. We can go to a normal view, which is smaller, or a wide view, right? So we'll kind of work with a bigger view. And then there's also a modulation section. And I'm just going to close this for a second because there's some things here we can do. MIDI feed. This particularly works with the modulation section. We can operate it in mid-side mode. So you could do that type of thing where your delays are center and side, which is kind of an interesting thing, and maybe create some interesting effects. Auto mute self oscillator. I'm not exactly sure what that is, so I'll just admit it and move on. And then there is an input, output, or sidechain signal here, right, from monitoring. So I can hear, you know, or basically deal with all of those basic things. Help menu up in the top. We went through the presets, all of this basic stuff, and then the modulation section. The modulation section allows me to add modulation sources so that I could take and I can modulate, for example, the delay time, or I can modulate the filter sweep, and all of these types of things. So I have a couple of different modulation sources, and this kind of follows through the FabFilter product line. So you have the XY controller, which just allows you to basically, you know, map it out. Like if you had a joystick that you were plugging in, like a work surface kind of joystick, that would be kind of perfect. And you could do XY and basically do the modulation, record it as MIDI manually. You could do an XLFO, right? So this just allows you to kind of program. You could even sort of set it up to be like a step sequencer kind of thing for modulation steps. An envelope generator. In the envelope generator, what that does is like an ADSR that you could apply to the filtered signal. Then there's an envelope follower, which follows gain, right? So the actual amplitude, it follows that and applies modulation accordingly. Sometimes that creates really cool effects. And then you could create a new MIDI source. And then you got slots. And so we'll kind of, just for the sake of this, because we'll end up doing it, I'm just going to create like here an XLFO. And then what we will do is you take the target here and you would tie it to a particular source, to a particular knob, right? So this gives us the ability to kind of modulate that. So we'll kind of go, and that's kind of makes it cool. If I attach it to this delay, a little envelope here, and that gives me the ability, like when I click on this, it'll show me or highlight what is actually connected there, right? So I'm just gonna kill that, create one, and then we'll kind of work with it. So let's start by working with something very simple. So I'm gonna keep it here in kind of like a simple, like, let's start with like a basic kind of chorus effect. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of lock these guys here. I'm gonna kind of bring it to more or less kind of a tight timing here. I got my input, got it panned left and right. And one of the things that I can kind of do here is I can take and I can invert the phase of one of the delays. And that helps me to create some, some kind of interesting effects. So I'm going to turn off the filters for right now, and let's start. So let's start.
Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe. I can hear what you're saying. Stop for a minute, come sit there with me.
Okay, so now if I flip the phase on this side, then I'll get like a spreading.
Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe. I can hear what you're saying. Stop for a minute.
You know, if I want to, now this is just kind of, we'll start with this. Sometimes, like with this type of thing, what'll end up happening is that we can create like let's just say this is 12.6. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually untie this and I'm going to make this 12.6 as well. So that way we can kind of have like a same starting place here. And then it gives me some separate modulation control.
Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe. I can't hear what you're saying. Stop for a minute.
Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tie this guy, let me kind of go back there to its default setting, and I'm going to tie this guy over to here. So now I have this set up to delay time. I could actually do this to have it go like modulate with actual musical notes as it kind of goes through, or I can go to kind of a normal modulation thing here. If I want to, I can create some extra steps, and then what I could do is I could create more or less like a step modulation source, and then if I want to, I can go in and I can change the glide so it'll make it very squared off.
Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe.
And then so this gives me some freedom with it. I can actually do it in kind of
Slow down, baby, take.
So I can make this sort of work at a particular rate, like say eighth notes.
Slow down, baby.
Okay, so now here, I don't want to necessarily do this. I don't want it to be so radical here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually kind of pull these guys together a little bit, and kind of work it like this.
Slow down, baby. Take a moment and breathe. I can't hear what you're saying. Stop for a minute. Come sit there with me.
So now this actually becomes more of a thing where it's probably easier just because of what I'm doing here to kind of simplify this and kind of keep it like this. So I can, I got a control here that allows me to also manipulate the shape here, but I can kind of keep these guys a little bit more closely tied together, right? So I can, start with them from sort of a default place, and then kind of one by one adjust them in more of a subtle way, so I get kind of a little bit, just a little bit of movement here.
Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe. I can't hear what you're saying.
All right, so let me slow it down.
For a minute, come sit there with me. I can see you're afraid, and I don't know what to tell you. You're scared I might fail you.
And then what I can do here is I'm going to go to stretch mode so it doesn't modulate the pitch so much. And this will create a little bit more of a static, like, delay effect.
Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe. I can't hear what you're saying. Stop for a minute. Come sit there with me.
So it's modulating the actual delay time, but it's actually not changing the pitch, and that gives you, like, if I increase this now, I can make this much more of like a doubling type of effect. And let's just see here, one.
Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe. I can't hear what you're saying. Stop for a minute.
Let's go to
sit there with me.
I believe I should with the shift key I can make it.
See you're afraid, and I don't know what to tell you. You're scared I might fail you, and so you're leaving here before it goes wrong. Don't you know you can't keep running?
Create something a little bit more akin to like a doubling kind of effect. And this was like just kind of getting the delays somewhat closer together, but to kind of move them a little bit apart.
Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe.
And let's just hear what this sounds like without.
Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe. I can't hear what you're saying. Stop for a minute. Come sit there with me. I can see you're afraid.
And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the filters here. So now this is where I can have a little bit more fun with it here.
Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe. I can't hear what you're saying. Stop for a minute. Come sit there with me. I can see you're afraid, and I don't know what to tell you. You're scared I might fail you, and so you're leaving here before it goes wrong.
So now what happens is the actual effect comes through and it's filtered. So now it's just adding like a presence to the voice.
Yeah. Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe.
A little bit of a hollowness.
I
So
can't hear what you're saying. Stop for a minute, come sit there with me. I can see you're afraid.
so this is like one simple effect. And it's kind of cool. So let's, you know, and there's loads of ways to play with it. Let's kind of get into something, you know, from a delay perspective. I think you get the basic idea here. Only so many ways that we're going to kind of go with this. So let's go to something a little bit more like, you know, eighth note, quarter note kind of.
Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe.
And now you really hear those delays.
Hear what you're saying. Stop for a minute, come sit there with me.
And I'm going to kill this modulation section here for a second.
Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe. I can't hear what you're saying. Stop for a minute, come sit there with me. I can see you're afraid, and I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, so now I have these delays. Now what's really cool here is now I'm going to do a little bit of cross feed. So now this is going to feed a little bit of the left side into the right and the right side into the left.
Yeah. Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe. I can't hear what you're saying.
I'll try to go to a faster speed.
Stop for a minute, come sit there with me. I can see you're afraid, and I don't know what to tell you. You're scared I might fail you, and so you're leaving here before it goes wrong.
And you can also freeze and freeze your delay. Here, I'll do it right here.
Where you belong again, oh yeah, and I'll find you again.
And it will just keep repeating that. So like you could just grab it and it will just take a section and just kind of keep repeating it over again, which is kind of cool. Like that's something you could just kind of throw in and just automate just for like a simple effect, even if you just recorded it, and you get like this sort of infinite, it's sort of like equivalent of like an infinite reverb type of thing. So you have like some fun there. And then now when you start to sweep in some of the filters and kind of putting this in, we could kind of take it.
Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe.
So let's back off the level.
Hear what you're saying.
Put it a little more in perspective.
Stop for a minute, come sit there with me. I can see you're afraid, and I don't know what to tell you. You're scared.
And I can go to some warmer things.
So you're leaving here before it goes wrong. Don't you know you can't keep running from where you belong?
And each one of these has like a different characteristic.
And I'll find you again. Pretend, oh yeah.
Maybe we want smooth for the R&B thing.
You again. No river too wide or mountain too high. I won't let goodbye be a final reply. Baby, we're far from the end. So come on, baby, let me help you believe in you and me. Come what may.
So here, what we have now is like, you know, with this ability to kind of filter things down and kind of work with this, I can also tighten this up by changing the slope so that it makes the filter more dramatic. The ability to kind of pull them up, which gives you a much sharper resonance. The ability to kind of sweep and put bandpass filters and things like that. You can also add a modulation source. So, you know, if I wanted it to, you know, follow this, you know, whatever, this could be really awful here, but we'll give it a shot here, where I have it sort of follow the vocal itself in terms of.
Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe. I can't hear what you're saying.
So the filter is sweep.
Stop for a minute, come sit there with me. I can see you're afraid, and I don't know what to tell you. You're scared I might fail you, and so you're leaving here before it goes wrong. Don't you know you can't keep running from where you belong?
So what it does is it will kind of follow the shape of the voice and the amplitude of the voice to help modulate the filters. And you can kind of work with that, to kind of help to create some shaping and kind of movement. And each one of these, you can also pan the filters out if you want to. And then, you can operate it in parallel. And now,
slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe.
And then the filters sort of get separated and, out, and then you can also run it per channel where the filters are completely independent.
Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe. I can't hear what you're saying.
And so you have like these different options and ways of working with it together.
Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe. I can't hear what you're saying.
And you can see how like there's just a lot of possibilities here in terms of the movement. You could also just like very quickly we could just add in one of these types of things here, which is what I was doing a little bit before, more or less like on a pretty slow modulation thing. Go here to tape, and then I can essentially add in like a little bit of modulation to the delay time.
Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe. I can't hear what you're saying.
So I can shift the pitch.
For a minute, come sit there with me. I can see you're afraid, and I don't know what to tell you. You're scared I might fail you, and so you're leaving here before it goes wrong. Don't you know you can't keep running from where you belong?
And then you can just add like some kind of interesting characteristics, and you can make it more like very vibrato like if you kind of do a little bit more of this. This could be like kind of weird.
Yeah. Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe. I can't hear what you're saying. Stop for a minute, come sit there with me. I can see you're afraid, and I
kind of
don't
creating
know
like
what to
watery
tell
effects.
ya. You're scared I might fail ya, and so you're leaving here before it goes wrong. Don't you know you can't keep running from where you belong?
And then you can kind of really get into some interesting, really, really cool kind of, different shapes and characteristics when you really get into it. And then you start adding in the different filter characteristics, the different ways that you can route it, the different configurations that allow for pitch shifting or not pitch shifting, the ability to modulate, all of these parameters. It's just there's so much there to kind of work with. So it's a really cool one. And I really dig this. The more I use it, the more I kind of grown to like it. This is the plugin of the week, and it's the FabFilter Timeless 2.